So now let's talk about some anti-predator defenses in this video. So one example or examples of defenses are things where you might have protective coverings around the organism. So sharp spines in cacti would be an example of a protective covering so that the cactus doesn't get damaged. Protective harder leaves that aren't able to be chewed on, or poison that is going to protect plants or animals. Okay, so these are things that might help. Another mechanism is mimicry, where organisms use something from another organism to discourage predation. So coevolution occurs when two species adapt in response to selective pressures imposed by the other. So you see coevolution in lots of predator and prey activities. So anytime you have a predator that is killing off prey in one way or another, the prey will evolve mechanisms to protect itself from the predators. But then the predators will eventually evolve mechanisms to protect themselves or to help get over that new obstacle that the prey has put in place. So let's look at some defenses that we have. Poison dart frogs. Poison dart frogs are produce a poison within their skin that can actually kill. And so they have a very bright coloration that tells any potential predators, hey, don't eat me, because if you do, I will kill you with my poison. Some protective mechanisms within an organism. You have false eye spots on caterpillars. This can confuse predators, makes the predators think that the animal is actually looking at them. Or a false head would be another example. In that case, that head might frighten a predator, or if the predator tries to grab onto that head, that head can break off easily and it doesn't hurt the actual animal. So the fly itself isn't damaged, but the head is now going to go away, and that predator will take that head thinking it got what it wanted, and it didn't. So mimicry then is a resemblance to another species or more than one species, which can help one organism avoid being preyed upon. So there's two forms of mimicry that we discuss. The first one is Batesian mimicry. So this occurs when you have a non-harmful prey that mimics a harmful prey. Or I won't say a harmful prey, a harmful species. Something that has a successful defense. So warning colorations would be an example of a prey that is going to mimic the warning colorations on an actual successful organism. So like you might have another frog that is also brightly colored, but it's not poisonous. That would be an example of warning coloration, Batesian mimicry. Mullerian mimicry occurs when you have more than one species that all have successful defenses, and they resemble each other to ward off, again, predators. So let's look at this. So this is a yellow jacket. Yellow jackets have a very good stinging defense. And then D, this is a bumblebee. Bumblebees also have a good stinging defense. These two can hurt us, right? And everybody knows black and yellow, stay away so that you don't get stung, right? These are organisms that are within the same class. and we don't want to get hurt. They're both hymenopterans, and they can hurt us, right? But then here B is a flower fly, and C is a longhorn beetle. These two are not dangerous. They don't sting. They don't hurt us. They won't hurt us. So they actually, if we captured them, if we were holding them, they wouldn't do anything to us. But when you look at them, they look similar to your yellow jacket wasp and your bumblebee. So these are protective Batesian mimics to the bumblebee and yellow jackets, which together are Malarian mimics. Okay. So let's see, 5 minutes. I'm gonna talk a little bit longer in this one. I'll talk about symbiosis as well, and then in the last video, I'll talk about. I'll have one more thing to talk about. Okay, so symbiosis is a relationship in which two different species live together in some way. Okay, so the term symbiosis is just means living together. We are living together. Symbiosis isn't beneficial or detrimental in a nutshell. It is just living together. The forms of symbiosis can be detrimental or can be beneficial. So parasitism is a form of symbiosis that is detrimental to at least one of the organisms. Commensalism is a form of symbiosis in which there's no real benefit to one. One might get a benefit, the other one doesn't really get anything. And then mutualism is a symbiosis in which both are going to benefit. So in parasitism, one species benefits and the other one is harmed. So I usually think of it as you have one species has a plus and species 2, species 1 is plus, species 2 is minus. They get a detriment, okay? So any disease-causing organisms would be considered parasites to us. Ticks are going to be considered parasites. Protists, fungi can be parasitic. Hold on one second. All right, so when I talk about bacteria, ticks, protists, and fungi, I was talking about with humans, but you can have fungi that are parasitic on, there you go, on different, like frogs and stuff, and they can actually kill those animals. Or fungi that grow on worms. Silkworm disease is an example of that. And so here you see tomato horn wasps, or tomato hornworm and Burconid wasps. So the hornworm itself is, this little insect here, right? Or this little animal here. These Burconid wasps, they lay their eggs, and then the offspring will actually eat the hornworm and then will eventually develop into more Burconid wasps. Cowbirds, they are interesting. So cowbirds are a parasitic bird. So what they do is they lay eggs in the nest of other birds. They don't take care of their own young. But when they lay their egg, they will take an egg from the actual bird. Say it's a goldfinch. That would be an example because that's what's there. They'll take one of the goldfinch eggs and get rid of it, and they'll replace it with one of their own bird eggs, so that the goldfinch won't realize. And then when the eggs hatch, the cowbird is much bigger than the other birds. So to the goldfinch, that could mean that the cowbird is healthier. And so the goldfinch feeds that cowbird more. There's a lot of interesting things with cowbirds, and you can look them up on the internet. I mean, they have some crazy things happen. Like if a bird realizes that there was a bad, like a cowbird egg was put in, and the cowbird egg is removed from the nest, that the mother cowbird might come back and destroy all of the eggs in the nest. I mean, they're just crazy. They're kind of like mafia birds, but they are definitely interesting. So commensalism occurs in which one species, so again, species 1, is benefited, but species 2 doesn't really get any benefit or detriment, okay? And so an example of this would be cattle egrets and cattle. So cattle, they walk around. Egrets kind of hang out by them. They might stand on them or be right around them. The egrets are going to eat insects that are around the cattle. So as cattle defecate, insects come around, the egrets get the food. They don't eat cattle fecal matter, but they eat insects that oftentimes are around where the cattle are. The cattle aren't really benefiting off of this. They're not being harmed off of this either, but the egrets are getting food. So that's a benefit to them. Here's some other example of commensalism. In this one, you see a bunch of barnacles sticking to a humpback whale. Barnacles can stick to the whale, they get to where they want to go, and then they can release from the whale. They just basically let go when they want to, and then they'll, so they're getting a free ride. And that's exactly what's happening here too. We have a manta ray and the remora fish. The remora will attach to the manta ray, and they get a free ride. They don't have to use any energy, and then they can just be released whenever they're ready. It doesn't hurt the manta ray at all. And then mutualism. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship in which both species benefit. So you have species 1 and species 2, but they're both gaining a benefit. And so over here, you see sea anemones and clownfish. Clownfish can live within the sea anemone. The sea anemone protects them from other potential predators because it'll shock them. And the clownfish keep the sea anemone clean. They can eat any potential material that comes in, okay? And so that they're cleaning the sea anemone. There's also cleaning stations where you have small birds and small animals coming in and cleaning the teeth of more big predators. We have plants and pollinators. That's another example. So here we have a cleaning station where you have fish eating material off of this large turtle. And so he's getting cleaned and they're getting nutrients. Here's another example where you have these tiny little shrimp doing the same thing in the gills. And then here we have a pollinator and a plant. So I'm going to stop here. And the last thing we'll talk about in the next video is ecological succession. So, bye.